Okay, so this might sound a little random, but I've been thinking about this for quite some time, and I needed to talk about it, so of course I came to the internet. So I'm gonna start this off very simple by asking you one question. Have you ever done something so stupid without thinking, and then looking back at yourself and just wonder, oh goodness, what was I doing? Yeah, so I ended up finding this 17-year-old kid on Instagram. And I think this might be one of those situations where he looks back and thinks that this is really cringe. Or honestly, he might look back and think that he's the coolest kid to ever exist because there is some potential here to be a phenomenal dad lore story. Okay, let me at least give you some backstory so that you can follow properly. So, a few years prior, his older brother has taken over the family business and he's been working under him ever since. Naturally, he thinks that this is going to be his future. He's going to work the family business with his brother, and he has these ideas and opinions that start flowing that he wants to share with him. But his brother does not give him the time of day. He's not interested in what he has to say. He doesn't care. He completely dismisses him. And I think we have all felt this at some point when we were younger, where we had all of these ideas and we just wanted somebody to listen to us and take us seriously. I think it's more disheartening when it comes from somebody that you look up to and admire, and all you want is to feel seen. Even though we have all felt this at some point in our lives, he takes a entirely different approach to how to solve this. Instead of sitting down and figuring it out, this kid gets upset and decides that he's done. Not like, I'm gonna go cool off, I'm done. Not like, I'm gonna go stay at a friend's, I'm done. This kid decides that he's going to leave the state entirely, which is wild because when I was 17, I didn't have much money, and in his case, he didn't either. Just wait, because it gets a lot more interesting, especially when it comes down to the way that he chooses to run away. I don't think that he chose this way in order to not get caught or seen by anyone. I honestly don't think that he was thinking at all. He decides that his best solution for running away is to get on a boat. Yes, a boat. He does say that he grew up around boats and he's pretty familiar with them, but still, using a boat as your runaway plan is definitely not the first choice. So he goes to the pier and he meets these older guys who have a boat. And he tells them that he wants to go to Pennsylvania, specifically Philadelphia. I can't tell you why he chose this state, and he doesn't really go into detail as to why he chose it either. He just said that he kind of felt like this is where he was supposed to go. After talking with these guys for a little bit, just telling them where he wants to go, how he doesn't really have a plan, but he offers them some money, and they just say okay. And personally, I feel like this is a huge red flag. There's no questions, no second guessing, and the guy just says okay and he gets on the boat. Once they're actually on the boat and they set off for sail, it hits him pretty fast that this is not what he imagined at all. It's crowded, it smells, there are all these people that he didn't expect to be there. They're all grown men and they seem completely comfortable. And then there's him, 17, quiet, completely out of place. The water isn't calm, his body is nervous, and he starts feeling that slow, miserable sickness. That kind where you're trying to convince yourself that you're fine, but you're really not. And then it gets worse. A really thick fog started to come in enough to where you couldn't see where you're going, and suddenly he's not just uncomfortable, it's really scary. And he has no idea how close they are to land, no idea how experienced these guys actually are, and no idea what would happen if something went wrong. Later on, he does admit that this was probably the scariest point that he encountered. Eventually, that fog did lift. They don't crash, nothing dramatic happens. But by the time that he gets off the boat, he is completely exhausted. That kind of tired where your brain just really isn't working properly and your feet are moving before your thoughts. I really don't blame him for this next part because I would probably do the same thing. The sun is rising, he's walking through Philadelphia. He doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know anybody here, and all he can think about is how hungry he is. So he's just trying to find a place that's open, and there is a bakery that's open. He doesn't know how much things cost. He doesn't even think about it. He just walks in, doesn't ask any questions, just hands them money and says, "Can I have some bread?" The person behind the counter takes one look at him and realizes that this kid has absolutely no idea what he's doing. So they just give him 3 full loaves of bread, which you think that sounds really generous until you realize that he has no way of carrying around 3 loaves of bread, and he also has nowhere to stay. So his bright idea is that he's going to shove one loaf under one armpit and the other under the other armpit, and he's gonna walk down the street just eating the third loaf. He just roams the streets eating this bread, and when he's finished, he determines that, yeah, I'm full. So he doesn't know what to do with the other 2 loaves. And he sees this daughter and her mom walking the street, and they don't look too great, so he's trying to be nice. He doesn't think they're doing too well. He doesn't put much thought into what he does next, which seems to be the theme of this entire story, but he gives them the remaining 2 loaves of bread. Okay, I'm just gonna say this. I don't think that he showered in a bit, and I know nervous sweats, so if he put that bread under his armpits, I'm pretty sure they had to have thought that it was garlic bread. Okay, I'm just saying, okay? At this point, he has to follow through with his plan. The journey has to go on. He has now made it to where he was trying to go, and now that he's here, of course he can't give up. He is already this far. I mean, he just has to figure out the rest, right? Honestly, he has a pretty fascinating story, and I think you should go check out the rest of his story. His name is Benjamin Franklin. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Obviously, I didn't just find some random kid on the internet. We've been learning about him since we were kids. One of the most amazing founding fathers of the United States. He has shaped the world forever, but did it change anything for you when I told you about him without all of that attached? Without the titles, without the achievements, without knowing how the story ends? Because I personally really like to think about him in this way. Just a normal guy, someone who made mistakes, acted impulsively, didn't always know what he was doing, and just kept going anyway. I think that's what makes this story stick with me. We usually talk about people in history at the end, after everything worked out, and we give them a lot of praise, for good reason, but we don't always let them be human. You don't know you're living history while it's happening. You're just living, trying your best, making mistakes, figuring things out as you go. And for me, that's where faith fits in, because we don't always know where we're being led or why certain choices, even the bad ones, end up mattering. Sometimes what feels messy in the moment is part of a much bigger story. He didn't know he was becoming history. And maybe that's what's kind of beautiful about it. Because who knows? Maybe one day someone will be telling your story too, in a way that you never could have imagined.